Hi everyone, my name is Uli Putri, and today I'm going to talk about a global perspective on Black Lives Matter. Before I start my presentation, I want to give a bit of a background why I'm giving you a talk about this. A couple of a couple of months ago, I was talking to your professor, Schuling, and I was mentioning to her that I was invited to give a talk about Black Lives Matter by my alma mater, the American Studies program at the University of Indonesia. So that's where I did my master's, and then I did my PhD here at CU Boulder, and then I went back and I taught for the American Studies for 2 years, and that's why my colleagues invited me to talk about this because as you know, when the Black Lives Matter movement, got a lot of coverage on the news, especially with George Floyd, and then with Breonna Taylor as well. People in Indonesia are very curious about what is going on in the United States, and how is it that a country that is so big, so powerful, has this kind of systemic racism issue that can actually affect the whole livelihood of the country. And so the three of us, me and my colleagues, were talking about different aspects of Black Lives Matter. One of them were giving a history about racism in the United States, and I happen to talk about police brutality and its relationship with Black Lives Matter, which what I'm going to share with you in this mini lecture. So let's start the presentation by asking some questions. So the first question the big question that I would like to address is actually asked by one of the participants of the workshop, was that how does it affect us? How does this Black Lives Matter movement affect people globally in other countries? I think for me, one of the biggest takeaway from what's going on in the US is it allows us to actually look into our own countries and what is going on between the majority versus the minority. And we look at whether there are any systemic problems that enable the majority to continue to be the majority, and whether the system is oppressing the minority. So a lot of issues come up because of that discussions. And I think the idea of the majority and minority is not only an issue that is happening in the United States, but I think every country around the globe has their own problems that are quite similar to what's going on in the United States. So why do we need to talk about it? Of course, because we need to be reflective of our own country, of what our problems that we have in our country, and what do we learn from discussing it? We learn about how we could be better, what are the actions, the steps that we can take so that we are not repeating the same mistakes. And to answer the last questions, I would actually want to start by talking about police brutality first, about police unions, and then we will circle back to the last questions. All right, so why do we need to talk about police unions? We understand that the organizations of police unions protect the rights of police officers. And these unions have used collective bargaining to protect their members from accountability for racist killings. It is not a secret that the rate of incarceration among Black and Hispanics or Latinx people are definitely higher than the white people. And so there is this significant and positive correlation between police protections created via union contract and the killing of unarmed civilians. So what we understand is that police union give this sense of security, like this sense of insurance for police officers to feel safe when they're actually conducting actions that have, that hurt other communities or that have a significant impact, which includes death among the Black community. And then how do the police unions protect their members? We understand that they protect the members by conducting internal investigation. And why this is so problematic is because if you consider yourself as an entity or these organizations as an entity, when you want to make sure that your organization is working properly, you need to have like an outside external auditor to audit the functions of your organizations. However, when you do not have that external auditor, instead what you have is just internal investigation, then the people who are inside, who believe that they need to protect each other, will not provide the members who violate their codes of conducts as other external organizations would help them accountable, if that makes sense. And then also this body, this police union body, create barriers to report misconducts. So instead of encouraging fellow officers to actually be vigilant of what their colleagues are doing, they are wanting them to have this code of silence, so that report of misconduct are being suppressed. And then what's also fascinating is that the police union keep an officer's disciplinary record secret. So if there had been a history of misconducts in the past, and we know that with the police officers that are involved in the incident of Breonna Taylor, the incidents of George Floyd, they all have past misconduct reports, but they tend to be kept secret. And also, they expunge an officer's disciplinary record after a few years. So everything is swiped under the rug. Every record is deleted after a couple of years. And then there is this rule of delaying any questionings of officers for 24 or 48 hours after an incident such as a police shooting. We know that when it comes to a significant event like this, the sooner you are asked and the sooner you can provide statements, the better it is for the case. However, these police officers who are involved in this kind of incidents, they tend to be protected by this rule of delaying any questioning for 24 to 48 hours. And then, last but not least, the union allow fired police officers to be reinstated. It may not be in the same precinct, it may be transferred to a different precinct, but as you can see on the data on the slide here, here are the percentage of fired officers reinstated from 2006 to 2017, yeah, due to the poly-union contracts arbitration clause. And we see that the number is significantly high. So how do this protection affects the movement, the Black Lives Matter movement? We understand that police officers are rarely arrested for killings on the job. So that's how good the union is in protecting their own members. And then research by Stinton, 2017, shows that there are around 1,000 deaths due to fatal shootings by police officers in the US. Yeah. But between 2005 and 2017, there were only 80 officers arrested for murder on manslaughter that resulting from on-duty fatal shootings. So you see, there's this huge discrepancy between the number of the shootings and the number of the police officers that got arrested. And only 35% of them were convicted. 26% are still pending, and 39% are not convicted. I think this goes as what I have said before, how good the police union is in protecting their members and making sure that it's hard for the external body to actually push towards reformation. And this is something that I'm going to talk in the next slide. So how do these protections affect the movement? Is that reform proposals are met with resistance. Most of the head of the union are condemning the way the media have portrayed police brutality, and they were against doing reforms within the body of the police, because they want to make sure that, since they think this job is a very difficult position, it's a very difficult job, and no one can deny that, there needs to be a lot more protections toward the police officers. And then another one is that now that we understand how powerful the police unions are, it is hard for reforms to happen without the help and support of federal governments. And then we also understand the importance of having a law that limits the range of subjects over which police unions can bargain, and perhaps even prohibiting negotiations over anything involving the use of force. What I would like you to take away after our very brief mini lecture is, I do want to encourage you to read more about this idea of police union and how it affects the rate of police brutality in the United States. But I also encourage you to read more about the history of policing that has been, throughout the history, a history of class and race struggle. If you read any book about the history of policing, then you will understand that the way police enforcement is established in the United States, in the northern part of the United States, it is because of businessmen are asking the government to help protect their business and to make sure that their employees are working hard to achieve the target that they set, that there's no stealing, there's no issues that are going to affect the business. And then if you read about how the police in the South was established, you will see that the police enforcement, the organization was established because the plantation owners who had a lot of slaves wanted to make sure that the slaves worked hard and that the slave would not run away and that the slave would not rebel and then attack their owners. So the establishment of the police organizations in the South had been about how to protect the owners, the slave owners, and the plantations owners. And so that's why we say that the history of policing had always been about the history of class and race. And then we also understand that in itself, union is a form of collective action that needs to be protected. Because now in the United States, a lot of unions are getting weaker and weaker. However, only the police union that is getting stronger. And what happens in the police union right now, as we can see, is actually an abuse of the power. So I want you to understand that what we can do is that we do not blame the union, but we want to stop the abuse. So that is two things that I do want you to remember from this mini lectures. Thank you.